What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and I told you guys we had a big tool coming, and it's here. Just got it delivered. My buddy Mike had it delivered to his shop. He actually brought it out here on a rollback, and my neighbor helped me get it off the rollback and into the shop. What is it? It's a 2-post lift, guys. Look, I have needed this forever. I've had the 4-post since before I built the shop. It actually used to be in my house garage, by the way. Go check out that video because I talked about the dimensions and will it fit in a regular garage? It will. You may need 10-foot ceilings to get more than 2 F bodies. Okay, so that's what it has on it now. Obviously an F body up top, F body on the bottom. I have a 12-foot sidewall here. Actually 12 foot 1 inch, actually. So that will fit in a house garage, but a 2-post generally will not, okay? You could probably get one in there. This is 12 foot to the top of the rail. Guys, this is a forward is what I chose to go with. I looked at rotary. I looked at bend pack. To be honest with you guys, I chose this one. My buddy uses these in his shop. He's had really good luck with them. So that is what I chose to use. So here's what we're going to do today. I'm not 100% sure we're gonna have it like turnkey ready by the end of this video, but I'm gonna kind of walk you through after I get some of it unpackaged, maybe some of the instructions, kind of what it's about. But I will tell you guys that when I had this shop originally poured, when I say poured, like the concrete, I had them pour it extra deep concrete lined up with this door right here, back here on this side. So basically, if you were to draw a line down the center of my shop, which is where my windows are, there's actually a relief cut in the floor. Those are lined up in the middle of the relief cut there, this wall, and with that garage door. So basically on either side here. So it's going to be kind of in this area, and it's going to give me so much more working space. I could actually store stuff under it if I wanted to. I could store stuff obviously in between it. And look, the ability to like lift the frame or the body off the 55 to get access to the frame. The ability to, Colin's car's not out here, but to lift a Corvette and set like the torque tube, the transmission, the whole running gear basically out from under a Corvette. There's so many possibilities. Suspension work, that is great for storage. It's great for oil changes. It's great for exhaust work. It, however, is not great for suspension work. But anyway, I'm gonna quit talking. I'm gonna go ahead and cut all the straps off, kind of see what we're dealing with. Now, aside from getting, you know, the columns unbolted from the actual shipping metal, they kind of sandwich it all in one piece. That's how my 4-post came, actually. Everything was sandwiched in between the 2 runways. But there's a lot of work. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's as much work as a 4-post. Maybe it is. Maybe it's more, actually. I don't know. I've never done one. So I've got everything taken out, and the instructions, I've read through them a couple times now. They're not stellar, but we're going to eke through it. We got our switches. We got obviously the arms we took off, the covers for the side. That's the top. We got the, I guess, dummy post, and then we've got the power holding post. What really needs to happen now is I need to get everything kind of cleaned up and put more back in that area. And I'm gonna have to move the truck and the 55. There's just no way around it. What I'm thinking is I'm going to attempt to take this apart and use my cherry picker back there and a like axle strap to lift this up, or at least kind of support it as I unbolt it. I think that would probably be my best avenue. I don't know how heavy they are. I'm sure they're ridiculously heavy, but I think that would be a good idea. And then what we'll do is there's some assembly that has to be done before you like stand them up. So we need to do that stuff, and I'll try to talk you through it as I go. If I find the pieces, I'm still looking for the very first piece on the instructions. So we'll see where we get. As you can see, got some stuff kind of moved around. Back here is where this lift's going to go, like I said, and we're going to have to move some more stuff. But at this point, the hoist isn't supporting it. It's actually, I've just done all this by myself. You can move it around. I really don't think I'm going to be able to stand up these posts by myself, but there's some assembly that we need to start, like I said, while the posts are down. So I'm gonna look into that. I'm actually gonna take the night, I'm gonna read through the entire instruction manual, and then we're gonna get a fresh start the next day and see if we can at least maybe, I'm gonna have to move the C10 because that's kind of in the way. I'm thinking, guys, it's gonna be like really close to where these intersect here, where the cuts are. Hoping that's not gonna be a problem, putting it on a cut, but that's really where it needs to go because that's where the concrete was poured for it. So anyway, I'm gonna do some reading on that. We're gonna try to place it, it's gonna be even with this garage door, like I said, and then halfway, I need to measure actually, because I'm not sure that they cut these completely square. So if they didn't, then it may go further that way. But yeah, this is the area that it's gonna go in. So basically I'm standing underneath the middle of it right now, even with this garage door. Still got some assembly to do before they go up, but we made a template. You can see our little template that we made. My dad came out, he's getting ready to come out and help me drill the holes and mount this thing. Guys, I was up at night not wanting to put it over the joint, okay? So it would have, technically, to put it where I was originally gonna put it, it would have laid over that one and like a little, really close to this one. Actually, it would have been on the other side of that. And so I moved it over per the instructions. They want to see 4 inches, well, 3.5 inches away from an edge, okay, with these bolts that we're using. But that's what we got marked. We scored a line here to try to line up the intersection. So each of the centers have a spot. These need to face each other. We'll square it up a little bit more, but the very first thing we need to do is, what we're going to do is put this post up, okay? But before I do that, there's a couple pieces that I think I need to assemble in here. One of them's a guide. I think we need to put the chain, or not the chain, but the cable through, I think is what it says. So, like I said, the instructions aren't great. I'm gonna try to walk you guys through bits and pieces as I go. Got some of my parts scattered out here, but we need to install one of these. Okay, it's a latch cable bracket, they call it, and I put it right here. Best I can tell, that's where it goes. So as you're looking at the post, this is on, the bolt is towards the outside, not the inside. And that little plastic piece is on the inside here. I need to snug it down. I hate to, because I don't necessarily know based off the picture, I'm guessing. So here's what I did first. Pulled the cap off the top of the cylinder up here. See that guy? Now, we had to move the arm holder, I guess, I don't know what it's called, this guy here. Needed to move down. It was locked in place, so what I had to do is screw the little handle in here, pull it back, and then shove something in so the lock came out. And then Cohen helped me. I was pulling and he was pushing to get it down to the point where we can get that 90-degree fitting on this guy. So we need to unscrew this, and there's a 90 fitting that goes here, and I think it points up. Got that cap out, got the 90 in. There's a couple different 90s, 2 of them being the same. I installed one of the 2 in that guy right there after I took the cap out. The other one has a seal on it, AN on one side, and it has a seal. So I'm assuming it possibly goes up top, and it didn't fit in that opening. That's MPT, what goes into the actual cylinder. So I think we're good. I snugged it up. It's supposed to point up towards the top of the lift, and I didn't, I don't think I can make it another time around. So we're gonna leave it right here. The next thing it says to do is we're gonna put our equalizer cable in. Guys, do you know what an equalizer cable is? I don't either. But after reading the instructions, these are equalizer cables. I wouldn't have called it that, but that's what they call it. So we need to unwrap those. And we're gonna have to figure out where they fish through, because I don't really know. I know where I think they should go, but I don't think that's where they go. So the next thing we need to do is take one of these cables, the end off of it, and we're gonna run it up through that opening right there, that smaller one. Unless you're using the narrow setting, then you're gonna go to the next one up. We're not, we're using the standard setting. So we're gonna go through that, What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end off and I'm going to push it up all the way until I can see it up here. And what that'll allow me to do is run the nut down until it says a 1/2 inch of stud extends out past the lock nut, and then you pull the cable back down. So we're going to start with that. So you can see what I did, pushed it all the way through, and now I've got a 1/2 inch showing on the top side. Now we can pull it back down and it'll lock in that bottom hole. We hope. Yep, it did. But now we need to get it around this wheel. Now I'm kind of iffy on, look, I've got that threaded down in there. We took the Phillips out of the plate. You can see that we've got it around that, but I'm just kind of iffy on where the cable goes from there. The picture seems to illustrate it coming right back up through the same opening and then going out that top hole in the back. But man, it just doesn't make sense to me. It seems like it would chafe on stuff, but maybe when it gets some tension, we'll know a little more. But ultimately what we needed to do is get that cable on and just kind of loop it out the top for now. We can go back and try to figure out where that goes possibly later. I don't know. We'll just see. But according to the instructions, if you look at them, it shows it looping around and it shows it going up through the front side of this, okay, and then all the way out. But then, you know, it's really weird. See how it goes out the top and the back? I don't know. We'll just have to see. Now, believe it or not, we're doing all the exact same stuff on this other side, on the other column, okay? Everything. Now that we've done that, or I've got it mostly accomplished, you go back to the very back of the book and it says to put the T-fitting on the power side. Okay, so this is the side that's going to have the controller on it, which will be your passenger side. And there is a T-fitting. This is your return port. I'm going to get the actual size for that before I snug it down. That needs to be snugged down up top on this one. And then the other one is going to have just a 90 on the top of it. Okay, that's where we pulled this port plug out. At this point, I'm just waiting for my dad to show up. Me, my dad, and Cohen are going to lean this post up right here, and this is where we're going to start. We're going to start by locking this post down, okay, making sure it's square. You're using the openings there as a template for your drilling, okay? So no, we're not going to drill and then set it in place. You actually, the instructions specifically say, put it in, use that for the outline of your drilling. So once we get that one in, pushed up and in, it's going to take 3 people to push that up, by the way. Once we get that one in, we're going to get the top plate that you see right there lined up top, kind of bolted together. We're going to go ahead and lean this one up. And so we got to make sure that one's square. And then once it's square and we get the length figured out on the top, we're then going to make sure this one's square and then on plane. And so on plane, what I'm meaning is if for some reason my floor was a 1/2 inch higher over here than over here, we're going to have to adjust that with shims on this side, bringing this one up or down accordingly, if that makes sense. So hopefully we don't have to do that. But that is our next step. We've got a hammer drill out here with a 3/4 inch bit. And guys, you're going to have to either rent one of these, or I've got a buddy that had one, luckily, to get this done, because you're not going to do it with a regular drill. So we got the first one stood up, and we marked it last night. So a line, you can see we're lined up in the center, that cutaway, there and here, all lined up, like really square. And then my dad just put the level on it, and it is like, I don't know that we're not messing with shims, I'll tell you that. It is that close to level. So it's time to drill. So we're gonna get the drill out. And like I said, you're using this as a template. So then we're gonna knock some of those bolts in and secure this one. And then we'll move to that other one. So we got both columns up. We then put the spreader bar, or whatever they call it, in the center. Got it locked in. Made sure everything was square, everything is level. Drilled the holes with the hammer drill. Had a little bit of an issue, guys. We actually drilled some extra holes that we didn't need, because when I poured this shop, I told them I was going to put a 2-post lift in. We did have to lay it over this. I know a lot of people say you can't lay it over this. However, I've talked to several people and they said it's completely fine. So look, we're the distance away from an edge that we need to be, even where we drilled the holes. So I'm not too concerned about that. And this concrete is like 12 inches thick in this spot. But we were going to move it up, trying to avoid going over that. Problem we ran into is the concrete just, I don't feel good about the depth. We didn't, either one of us feel good about the depth about it. And so at this point, we're going to drive those bolts in. He's actually, my dad's assembling them right now. And basically what you do is run them to where they're flush, and then you hammer them down till they stop, and then you tighten them down. 110 foot-pounds is what they get. That's a lot. If it doesn't torque to 110, they say you got to pull the concrete up, re-pour, because your PSI is not right. So we're going to hope that I can knock these in with a hammer. I got all the bolts hammered in, and they tightened down to the 110 foot-pounds that they were supposed to. Every single one of them got tight, so we're good there. So at this point, obviously we got to clean that up. That's going to make me nuts. I'll probably do that off camera here a little later, but I'm going to move on in the instructions, even though they're really terrible, and see what we need to do next. I know we're going to have to put the cutoff switch up top, which you can see the bar laying right there, that black bar. That gets mounted up top there. That is for if you go too high, it shuts the lift off, so you don't like run the top of a truck or car into the roof, or that bar into the roof of it. So I think that's the next step, but like I said, we're just going to kind of eke through the instructions and kind of go from there. So in order to put this guy up, I've taken the outer cap off. Okay, this is going to face the outside, so the two holes that you see going to face the outside, and it's going to bolt to the top up there. Then that bar that you see standing right there is going to go through the end of it. After we obviously put the cap back on, I took these little Phillips out to give me access to put the screws in. But this is what we're using: 3/4 inches long, 1/4 inch lock nuts. The washers will go on here, and then this is this side. The other side has a hole in it where we will use this, 2 spacers, and a nylock. I've got that back in place. You do have to put the cover back on before you put it all together, but it's together and snug down. The next thing I did, I didn't show you guys this because it was pouring rain out here and you can't hear in my shop when it's raining. I mounted the motor, okay, 1.5 inches long. I don't know why, but they need the star washer on both sides. Okay, you should have 8 of them. This is a challenge. This thing's heavy. So what they do is they've got a slotted opening. This is where my motor went, and the outer furthest down, furthest up slotted opening. I started it in the slotted opening on this and then put it in the singles once I was able to kind of manage it and had it held up here. Me not trying to hold it, but you got to sneak those bolts in from the back. Just don't forget to put your washers, those star washers, on. Those are for grounding purposes. The next thing it's showing me is we need to put a couple fittings in here. This one I believe is for the return fitting, and this is for the feed fitting. So got to figure out where those are over here in this mess. I've got the fitting connected here. That's what you're seeing. There's a jam nut, so you tighten it up and then you tighten the jam nut until the washer squashes in. And then my return port, I actually had a spot in the manifold to pull out the plug, put the return port in the opposite side. So we're good there. Now, while I think they're telling you to do this in sequence, we're going to try to do it the way they tell you. The next thing is to put the hydraulic hoses on. So we're obviously going to need a T-fitting in a couple spots. Looking at the picture, there's actually I guess one T-fitting, sorry. One T-fitting on the inside of the power unit side. See the power unit there? So the longest cable is going to go to the driver's side, let's call it. Okay, the opposite side of the lift over there. It's going to go up over the top and down in through the hole up top. And we're talking about, there's actual circular holes that it's going to go through. You'll see, it'll make more sense. I'll try to show you once I get it up there. So from the T to that, from the bottom of the T, the shortest one's going to go down. I'm assuming the shortest one is going to go down here to the other cylinder, and the middle one, okay, out of length, is going to go to the motor. We'll just have to experiment and see. One other thing before I forget, this little grommet goes up in that hole. That's where our lines are going to come out. You can see there's pieces welded to the side to hold the line kind of steady. So I think we'll start with that and kind of measure out our lines and make sure what I just told you is correct. So here's where we're at. Attached all those pieces and they were just like I thought. Second longest one goes to the manifold up to the T. Shortest one goes from the T down to this cylinder. Longest one from the T all the way across the top. Look how much excess I got that I'm gonna have to pin up. That goes to this cylinder. After that, I installed, and you could see that they want you to zip tie them. You can see the zip ties. Actually, it only comes with 4. I used 6 on this side and 4 on the other. Probably overdid it, but I wanted it away from the cables here. So zip tied that, but what I was gonna tell you is I went ahead and put the return in. And the return's just a push in, like airline almost fitting. So I had to cut that to length, went up there to the top where we installed the T earlier. And then obviously there's a 90 on that side. We went across the top. You could just barely see it up there at the top. So those 2 things are accomplished. Cohen helped me lift this one up. We got this cable in place. The only downside now is for some reason this second cable is not long enough. Don't really know what the heck's going on here, but we're gonna have to do some research and figure out why one cable is so long and the other one is not. Because we were able to pull, see how we need more slack here on this cable. I don't think we should have to lift. They're in the rollers up top. I don't think we should have to lift this in order to make this work. Next we move on to the lock. So we got this guy. Put this on, this sheath with 2 snap rings, one on each side. Put this loop over this, okay, just like that. And it goes in on the bottom side of this. Now, we've got that accomplished. We need to see how long that line is. It's long. That line is gonna run up into the piece that we put, looks like this, on the side of the post. This is one of the first things we assembled. You can see the bolt sticking out the very top, the little guy. So what happens is, to keep you from pinching that, you have these that you're going to put in one side. See this, how this fits, like that. So we've got another one that goes up on the top. You can see where they've showed that it goes out this hole, in the back hole on the other side. And so these guys connect, the cable goes through it, you bolt those down. That's how the cable keeps from hitting. So you install those sheaths in that first plate that you installed before you tilted this thing up. Another one installs on top. This wire obviously goes under this wheel. All the way over to the other side, you install another one of those sheaths and the sheath holder on this side. And then remember, we installed one here at the very top. That's before we stood things up. And then down, this is obviously made in a factory where they either weld the power end on or don't. Okay, so that's why you have a place for a wheel and don't have one. You come through the bottom one up, and then you put your little wire tie that they provide you, and then you want to test it. So I had Cohen over there pulling down, and we're getting equal release now. So that is hooked up. I think we can go ahead and I feel safe to, I may leave a little in case we have to pull some excess down the line, but I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. And that, I went ahead, took the ball off the end here, tighten this jam nut, you put 3 washers, you put this filler plate, and then we need to put our mech on there. This guy here covers everything up we don't want to see, and then there's some, well, let's see, it does. That's weird. Maybe putting it on wrong, guys. That's weird. So maybe it kind of hangs open a little bit. That's kind of wild. All right, well, either way, it comes with screws to put that thing in. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on, and then there's a cover panel for the other side. we have everything assembled. Okay, I didn't take you guys really up top, but there are two holders that come with it that hold the hydraulic lines. You can see they're kind of looped up on each end because you have quite a bit of access. The other thing I did was I zip tied the hydraulic line with the extra that it had to the front and those other openings. I did the same thing in the back with the return line. The only other thing I did off camera was I installed these two little side holders with the machine screws. Like, they're the same screws as go in this. I need to wipe this thing down, but I did hook up this other cable. I thought it wasn't going to work, but I was able to get it. I guess it was kinked somewhere. So this is where the other end of the cable, obviously the first cable hooks on the very bottom peg before you stand these up. Then this loops around that pulley on the front. There's a pulley up top, obviously goes the other side, and that goes into this similar thing here. And so what I did was I adjusted it until there's like just a little bit of the thread sticking out on the other side. We may have to mess with that later. But my dad's heading over here to help me wire it. Not a whole lot of wiring to do. We're coming, I already have the line ran. I ran this when I put all the wiring in the shop. Knew I was gonna do a 2-post. It doesn't really take as much. It's a 220, but I believe that I ran, well, I know I ran the right size wire and I've got the right size breaker over there, but all we have to do is come from that orange wire into that box, the trigger box that stops it if you get too high, and then out of that into the unit here, and we need to fill it up with the ATF. But I think while I'm waiting on him to get here, and then you're supposed to cycle it with this cap off to kind of get some of the air bubbles out of it. But there's a couple things we need to do, obviously, to get the wiring straightened up. I'm going to go buy a few of these little things to hopefully run the wire nicely into the box. You can take the cover off here and look at that. But I'm going to run the wire up those straps and then up to the top, probably zip tie in a couple places. But I'm not going to really show you much of the wiring, I don't think. I think we'll just knock that out off camera. But as far as the arms, I'm going to see if I can get those in place. I'm going to have to move some of this stuff, but those are pretty simple too, I believe. We've got pins that hold them in that we need to get some grease on, and then they pretty much just set on there. So we'll just see kind of what happens. I'll let you know if I have any issues. Got it filled with transmission fluid. Got the wiring just hooked up to make sure it worked, okay? And we are moving. See how it's kind of jerky? That'll smooth out. So it says to operate it up and down a few times until it smooths out. Oh, we're actually supposed to have this off, so it works the bubbles out. So far, so good. I don't hear that other lock hitting though. I do, however, hear the fluid cycling, which is good. I can't see that lock, so I don't know if it's in or not. I may have to take that cover off and make sure that our lock's back in place. But I'm gonna let it down, cycle it a couple times, and we'll see what happens. We're now all finished up. The last couple things I had to do is we had to put these little half moons on that locks the arms. You have to lift this little lever to move this. The bolts that I got with the lift did not fit, so I had to go buy some. They are 3/8 by 16 is the thread pitch. They're 1.5 inches long. So I had to buy 4 of those for each side. Had a leak that I had to fix. Guys, I'll tell you this. There's a couple things you need to notice. It says to put 8 quarts in, just 2 gallons, and then start cycling it. Don't think, because when you look down in here or even use this guy, I'm still bleeding. I've ran it up and down several times. I'm still bleeding it. But don't think that because this looks empty, it is. Because what happens is when you let off and this thing comes back down, that port that comes in, like basically the dump or the back feed, that will fill this thing almost to the top. So if you overfill this, when you let it down, it's going to push all that fluid out. So don't do that. I watched another video. I didn't do it, but I watched another video where a guy did, and just noticing when the lift's down, how much fluid's in there, it's like just a hair over minimum. So I think we're about a half a quart shy, but I'm going to watch it a couple more cycles before I do anything. But all in all, the instructions are terrible. I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that this was easy. We ran into several issues. I will tell you that the wiring that comes out of it, there's 3 wires that come out. There was I think a green, a black, and a white. Black is your ground, I believe. Green and white go to power. I ran a 4-wire line over here. Not a big deal. We just wrapped the common ground around a bolt. Trying to think of any other issues. This guy right here would not go into place. This little pad, I had to clean out some of the yellow paint that they did. Anything else? Sometimes the lock on this side, I think it's just got to get some motion in it. It doesn't want to swing back out of place, or sorry, back to where it's locking. So you really got to push this thing up when you want to lock it. So if you pull it down, which I can't right now because I need to lift it a little bit, but you got to pull it back down. You got to push that thing up. It doesn't it's not super springy where it's going to pop up. Now, maybe over time it will, but it's been a lot of work, that's for sure. But I'm really happy with it. The lines that actually leaked, I'm going to show you guys because you may have the same issue. Let me let it back down because I can't do that with one hand. Let me let it down. I'll show you where it was leaking. You just got to hold both handles while it's going down. All right, so here was where it leaked, right here. And I actually, here's my issue that I had. I don't think it's leaking anymore. Doesn't seem to be. Couple issues, guys. So this right here is an MPT fitting that goes into the side of this. Now remember, we put this together early, but what happens is to get it snug, okay? Snug where you know it's not gonna leak, it's actually pointed back a little bit. Well, if you do that, this piece of metal right here is gonna rub it. So I actually have a little bit of rash on it from lifting it up and down. Initially it wasn't leaking. I just noticed it was hitting that. Now you zip tie the line all the way up, out of the way, but this has to be pretty perfectly up and down. The problem is, to get it perfectly up and down, you can't get it completely tight. And you can't start it in a different spot. It only starts in one spot. So you're still coming back to the same area. And I can get it really, really tight and it be facing down, but I'm gonna break this if I continue. So that's why there's Teflon tape on that. Now the other side, I didn't have a leak initially, but I think it may be weeping a little bit. it doesn't seem to be right now, but this one was clocked the same way and it brushed up. You can't see it really, but it brushed up on the line. So I just left this one hooked up and kinked it back because guys, when I took this apart, we'd already cycled the lift and it made a huge mess. And I didn't want to do that on this side if I didn't have to. So we'll see. I mean, I may have to end up doing that. If I do, there's just no way to not make a mess. I mean, I got transmission fluid all over down there. I'm sure that I'll be wiping it up for years out from the little pulley underneath, but I got a majority of it cleaned up. I put a bunch of towels in here, but it didn't matter. So yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. I did not hook up my safety switch just because it felt like a really cheap micro switch that would fail. And if it fails, the lift's not gonna work. So I'm never gonna get a car that high. As a matter of fact, none of my cars even go that high. Where this lift maxes out, every vehicle I own would not hit the top of that. So I put the bar up there because you'll hear that, but no, I did not hook that up. And it's just one wire. If you guys want to hook it up, I get it. But like I said, terrible install. It took a while. You can do it. You can definitely do it. I've just worked on it a little bit each night, and it's just taken me longer than what I thought it was going to. Like putting stuff together, then taking it back apart because the bolts aren't labeled well. And I mean, I'm sure if you do these every day, like if I had to go do another one now, I could do it in a quarter of the time just because you know what goes where. But that's like anything. It's just, I wish the instructions were a little nicer. So there you have it. You can see I'm absolutely soaked in sweat, guys. It's been really humid and hot. And I will tell you that I've been up and down ladders, running cable and zip tying stuff and hooking up, helping my dad came out and helped me hook up the wiring. But it's even hotter up there. I think the shop's at 90 right now. So it feels like about 105 up top there where you're working on it. But look, other than the instructions being terrible, I'm happy with the lift. Okay, look, there's gonna be some stuff that you're not used to assembling, but all in all, I am happy. You know, if I have to go back and fix a couple leaks, it's not the end of the world. I'm so excited to have this lift. I know, like I said, guys, a lot of people are gonna talk trash about where I mounted it on the control joint or the control cut. Look, I've done tons of research on that. That concrete, I had him pour it 12 inches thick there. And so if I'd have thought about that when he was cutting the control joint, I would have had him cut it somewhere else. But honestly, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. I'm always gonna use my screw jacks back there when I have something really high, okay? So my main concern was forward and back if it let loose. The side to side, I'm not concerned about whatsoever. Look, you guys, if you don't trust that, don't install it there, but my concrete isn't as thick in other areas, and this is really where I wanted it, with a pretty clean shot to the garage door. You know, when we're using it, I don't want to have to like jog way over here. I didn't want it up against my cabinets, and like I said, the concrete's not as deep over there. So I wanted it in the spot where the concrete was the thickest, and I really don't think we're gonna have any issues. If we do, you guys will obviously see in a future video. That would be a great thumbnail if it ripped out of the ground, although it would make me sick. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this forward lift. It's a forward A10. I will list all the stuff, not only that I used to install it, but the lift itself in the description down below. If you guys are looking to get a 2-post lift, I think I would recommend this one. I've not installed any other ones. I'm sure they're not as great as far as instructions either, you know, so I'm not gonna say that all lift instructions were great. I felt like the ones for my bin pack 4-post were pretty decent, but bin pack seems to all be made in China now, and their prices have skyrocketed. So for this is actually assembled. Some of the parts are made in China, but it's assembled in like Wisconsin, I think, same place that Rotary is assembled. So it's pretty much a rotary lift. I talked to a couple guys that had a rotary. They said, look, if you're running a shop and you're moving it up and down 50 times a day, yeah, you probably should go with the rotary, but for what you're doing, this will be great. He said the majority of the components are the same. I don't think you'll have any problems. So I took advice from several people, did a lot of research before I bought the forward. That's what brand it is. Got a lot of help. Honestly, guys, got a lot of help from my buddy Mike. My dad came and helped me lift this stuff. My neighbor pulled it off the rollback with a tractor and put it in here for me. Cohen was out here helping. Cam's been out here helping. Yeah, it's been a lot of people helping. It would be tough to do it by yourself, that's for sure. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please, like always, smash that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, go down, hit that subscribe button. Of course, like always, ring that bell notification. That will notify you every single time we drop a new video. And stay tuned to see us get something loaded on this thing.